Be seated this morning. This first service, I ran into some visitors, a couple of them, and I said, listen, you need to come back. Don't write us off here just because I'm preaching this morning. We'll have the professionals up here next time. Give us another shot. You know, I was kidding with Pastor Greg. You know, I preach around here and there, and so I'm used to being Plan B. But like we've got 3 staff pastors gone, so I'm like Plan D. I'm way down the line, but then that'd make you about Plan E. So top 5 of the alphabet's pretty good, I guess. But I graduated from MU down in Columbia in 1980, and then I did 20 years in business with retail, and then in 01 we came to town here, and I got out of the retail world and pastoring, and so I pastored here 15 years, and then about 3 years ago we got out of that and decided to do something different, and so I've been kind of filling in here and there. And this is my wife, Kim, and I've married for 40 years. Can you believe that? That's a pretty good run, isn't it? You know, isn't she pretty? I said this first service, you know, I'd always get this same reaction when I would travel for business. Once in a while, Kim would go with me, you know, for this or that. And when people would meet her, they'd always have the same reaction. I mean, I got this reaction like a dozen times. They'd always, it'd go just like this. They'd go, well, your wife's pretty. I'd be like, well, what was you expecting, man? You know, we're going to show up in here as some old cow or something. I don't know what you think was happening. But anyway, we're so glad we're here to share with you. And, you know, we've been at Life Point over a year, and we've just been so blessed by this church. You guys don't realize, I think, how blessed you are to have a church with this culture and the staff and everything. And so I'm so thankful that Kevin gave me this opportunity to talk to you today. And so for the last couple weeks, Pastor Kevin has been talking about how you deal with problems and difficulties and when things come your way and they want to overwhelm you. And he's been talking about crying out to God and how do we handle those difficult times and those storms in our life. And so I want to pick that back up today. And I want to talk to you about overcoming what comes over you in life. You know, Jesus said that I have overcome the world. He said, in the world you will have trouble. So Jesus promised us we were going to have trouble. I mean, no, that promise is for sure, right? Everything's harder than it ought to be. Sometimes I just marvel at, you know, it's like, man, why is this got to go so hard? And you see people struggling and going through terrible things. And so we have problems, but he didn't stop there. He said, in this world you will have trouble, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. Be of good cheer. Now that Greek word translated be of good cheer or cheer up is tharseo. Everybody say tharseo. Tharseo. See, you learned some Greek this morning. It means to cheer up. Jesus said that often. But this was the last time he said this. Because he said this right before he went to the cross. He said, be of good cheer. Well, if there's good cheer, then there must be something that's bad cheer, right? And bad cheer is when we try to find something that will just dull our senses, that a sedative, a temporary solution that will help us for the moment, but it doesn't solve anything. It doesn't help us in life. It doesn't change anything. God is serious about being in a good mood. Listen to this Old Testament law. I like to dig this stuff out of the Old Testament once in a while. God had a plan for the nation of Israel. He established Israel as a theocracy. He had them as an example of what it would look like to have a nation that was literally ruled by God. And so he made all these laws and all these rules, and it didn't last no time. They messed that all up. But listen, when you look at these laws, you can get a picture into the heart of God. Deuteronomy 24 verse 5, it says, when a man has taken a new wife, he shall not go out to war, neither shall he be charged with any business, but he shall be free at home 1 year, and shall cheer up his wife for 1 year. The only job that dude had was to be right there with her every second, every minute of the day, trying to put her in a good mood. That law never caught much traction. He probably knew it'd take him a year to cheer her up, right? To put her in a good mood. But anyway, can you imagine, newlyweds? Can you imagine if your husband's job was just to cheer you up for a year? Now, Kim will tell you that I can cheer her up in my spare time, man. I'm so good at that. But just think what you could do if you had a whole year to work on that. And some of the other laws that he made. They had the year of Jubilee law. That meant that was every 7th year, all debts were forgiven. You know what you'd be doing that 6th year, right? You'd be out buying a new car. I'll take a new cow and a new cart. But every 7th year, everything was, all debts wiped out. All slaves went free. And listen, every 7 years, they took a whole year off work. A whole year. Every 7 years. That's how serious God is about us being in a good mood, about us being cheerful, having a heart that's full of joy. And so how can you, it's a command. He said, he commanded them, be of good cheer. How can you command someone to change the way they feel? Well, apparently we can change the way we feel. Paul was on a boat, and the boat was sinking. And everybody was in dismay. They were terrified. The boat's going down. In Acts chapter 27, verse 25, he says, "Wherefore, sirs, be of good cheer, for I believe God that it will happen the way he told me." Be of good cheer, tharseo. Turn to your neighbor and say, "Cheer up, you're scaring me." We need to smile more, man. Can we have good cheer in bad weather? Can we have good cheer in difficult situations? Can we have tharseo when everything is going bad? And you know, it's easy to tell somebody else to cheer up, isn't it? You know, when you're not the one in the middle of the problem and they come to you and say, "Man, you just need to change your perspective." And you're like, "Man, I'm going to change your face. You don't keep telling me that." I mean, you know, it's easy for us to give out all this good advice. "Oh, just trust in God. It'll all work out." Yeah, it will. You know, but when you're the one that's struggling, it's a little harder to take that good advice, isn't it? You know, and we turn to things that can give us a temporary fix, as I said, and Jesus is the only one that can bring the cheer. And in Matthew chapter 9, Jesus turns to a man and he tells him, he tells him to be of good cheer. Now this man had been crippled his whole life. And they bring the man to Jesus to heal. And before that Jesus healed him, in Matthew 9:2, it says that when he saw their faith, the faith of the people that brought him, not the man's faith, and that's a great sermon right there, the faith of the people that brought him to Jesus, he said to that man, "Be of good cheer." He hadn't even healed him yet. He was still crippled. And Jesus said to be of good cheer, to tharseo. You know, he said that I have spoken to you that you might have peace. In John 16, in the world you'll have trouble, but be of good cheer. I've overcome the world. We all would say that we believe that this is true. But if we believe that this is true, then I want you to ask yourself, why am I so down? Why am I so conflicted? Why am I struggling? Why am I struggling with discouragement and overwhelmed and anxious? So this morning, I want to give us a cheer checkup. 3 things that we're going to check. A cheer checkup, okay? 3-point sermon. Number 1, check your countenance. Check your countenance. Literally, check your facial expression. See, everybody's got a default demeanor. You know, a resting facial expression, kind of like a resting heart rate. And, you know, it's unfortunate, but some of us, we just got a face. Like, all my life, people have thought I was mad, and I wasn't the least bit upset. But they would look at me, and I've got like 2 little creases here in my forehead. Now everybody's looking. Now y'all looking now. You're back there playing on your phone. Now you're looking up. But, you know, and these 2 creases. And so I look like I'm mad. I look like I'm angry. And I'm not at all. So, you know, people think I was upset. And I'm just ugly. I mean, there ain't nothing you can do about that. And so, you know, we all have that resting facial expression. Well, what you can do and what I started doing, I actually, a couple of years ago, I thought about this, and I thought, well, why don't I make my resting facial expression a smile? And so I started going around, I would catch myself, and I would smile. Well, the first thing, everybody thought I'd pass gas or something. You know, what's that dude up to? What's he smiling at? You know, my kids thought I was senile or that I was something wrong with me. But I worked at this, and I started smiling. And you know what? I started getting better looking. I mean, don't you think? You're not buying it, are you? You should see me before I start smiling. You know, the fact of the matter is that a smile on your face makes you more attractive, makes people like you more. I've actually did some research on this for this sermon. I did some surveys, I didn't do them, I read some surveys, and people find you more attractive if you smile. Same survey, they think that you are smarter if you're a man. They think you're dumber if you're a woman. I don't know what to say about that. But and you look younger if you smile. This is all in the survey. People like you. Google this. Not now, later. People like you more when you smile. And so, you know, why wouldn't we want to smile more? You know, like I said, I started doing this. I did some substitute teaching at the Votech. And so I made a conscious effort to walk down the hall with a smile on my face and in class to smile. And, you know, the students really liked me. I kind of had that grandpa vibe going. I let them do whatever they want. That might have been it too. But they would come up to Courtney and they would say, my daughter, and she subbed too, and they would say, man, your dad is really nice. We like that guy. And she'd be like, are you talking about my dad? You're talking about Tim Buerky. That's who she was so surprised. But the smile thing, it really worked. You know, I wish I had a camera up here and we'd have videoed you guys and showed you what poor pastor looks at every Sunday morning. You know, Jeremiah 1:8. I never did understand this verse. Jeremiah 1:8. God calls Jeremiah to preach. And listen to what he said. This is his advice. God told Jeremiah, do not be afraid of their faces, for I am with you to deliver you. I get that verse now that I started preaching. Turn to your neighbor and say, smile. You're scaring the pastor. But your facial expression can set the tone for your attitude and the tone for your life. When you smile, you feel better. When you make an effort to just smile, it changes the way that you're looking at the world. And like I said, your kids may think you're gone senile, but God is into facial expressions. He's into countenance. Look at this in Numbers chapter 6, verse 22. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, this is the way you will bless the children of Israel. Say unto them, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. When you believe that God is smiling at you, it will change the way you look at the world. It will cheer you up. Check your facial expression. Be an encouragement to others around you. Let the Lord, that says that the Lord's face is shining up on you. See, I want to tell you something right here, and this is good. I want you to wake up back there in the back row and listen. The way you look at life is a direct reflection of how you think God is looking at you. The expression on your face is a direct reflection of how you think God is looking at you. And we become what we behold. We become what we stare at. We become what we are looking at. When we spend our time getting in the face of God and we have the sense that God is smiling at us, it will change us. You know, that's why spouses start looking like each other. Put that slide up there, like poor Kim's going to start looking like me. That's why pets start looking like their owners, right? Kids looking like their parents. You can't spend your time beholding God and knowing God and staring in the face of God and not taking on his countenance. 2 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 6 says, for God who said, let light shine out of darkness, made his light to shine in our hearts. If you look long enough at Jesus, you'll start to look like Jesus. Get in God's face. Get in God's presence. And ain't nothing worse than a grumpy old Christian. Some of the meanest people I know are Christians. I went to a new job one time, and they all were telling me all about things. And you know, this was in St. Joe, this was years ago, and they told me about this one person. They said, "You got to watch out for Mary. She's mean, man. She is bad." And they told me stories. And next Sunday I went to church. Guess who was at church? Mary. Went to church with me. Man, there ain't nothing worse than grumpy Christians. So check your countenance. Number 2. Cheer checkup. Number 2. Check your circulation. Proverbs 15:13, a merry heart makes a cheerful countenance, but by sorrow of the heart, the spirit's broken. The NIV puts it this way, a happy heart makes a face cheerful. You have to guard your heart. You have to guard your heart. Everything you do flows out of your heart. And you know, the world's definition of happiness is what flows to you. God's definition of happiness is what flows from you. You got to be careful what you let into your heart. Next time you're down, check your circulation. What's in your heart? What's your heart fixed on? What are you obsessing about? What are you focused on? You know, your heart pumps blood all the way around your body every 60 seconds. And if you don't have that circulation, if nothing good is flowing out of you, there's no life. It's possible, listen, I want to give you another one right here. You need to write this down. It is possible that I am not down because of something that I did not get, but maybe I am down because of something that I did not give. Did you get that? That's good. Let me say it again. It is possible that I am not down because of something that I did not get, but maybe I am down because of something that I did not give. Something that I did not give. You know, we think about our joy being dependent upon what's flowing into us, but the Bible tells us that we get as we give. You know, there's a verse in the Bible that we always we use it as a giving verse, but I want to show you that this principle of getting as you give, that it goes all through the Bible. Luke chapter 6, verse 37 and 38. It says, do not judge and you will not be judged. That's probably one of the most quoted verses in the Bible. How many times you heard people say, don't judge me? Judge not. The Bible says judge not. Well, that's not exactly. That's kind of out of context. Listen to this. Luke 6, verse 37 and 38. Do not judge and you will not be judged. Do not condemn and you will not be condemned. Forgive and you will be forgiven. Very next verse. Give and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be poured into your lap. For with the measure that you use, it'll be measured to you. Now this is a giving verse, and it does work for that. But what this verse is, the context of this verse, literally right here, is talking about judging others. It's talking about forgiveness. It's talking about condemning. In other words, the attitude that you are putting out there is exactly what you're going to get back. How many know you tend to get back what you give out? You know, what you show others, what you give to others is what you often get back. And maybe you are down, maybe you're in a bad mood because nothing good is flowing out of you. What's coming out of you? Are you putting out their criticism? Then you're going to get criticism back. Are you putting out their pessimism? Or you're going to get pessimism back? Are you putting out anger or stinginess? What we give, we tend to get what we give out. You know, that's a lot what church is about. You know, we sometimes think, well, I need to go to church so that God can bless me or do this for me, or I need to. But really, you're also here because of, we need you here. You have a section, you know, it's funny, you watch a new person come in and wherever they sit is almost where they're going to sit from then on, you know. We get our spots marked out. You know, we always sit about 5 rows back, right back there in the first service. You know, the other day I come in and somebody's in my seat and I'm like, man, what's up with that? You know, I had to go down on this side. I couldn't even worship that Sunday because I wasn't in the right spot. You know, you're all messed up. You want to tap him, excuse me, you got my seat. But then I kind of did a little investigating. You know, I wouldn't let it go at that. And I realized somebody had taken her seat. So it's a cascade effect. So if you don't get anything else out of the sermon this morning, sit in your assigned seat so you don't mess everybody up. But when you have your little section, And are you leading your section in worship? Are you encouraging the people around it? Just you showing up is a blessing. There's somebody probably came to church looking to see if you were going to be there, and they wanted to talk to you. And that's circulation. That's what we're putting out. And you need what God put in you to flow out from you. God can't fill a vessel that's completely full. If you're not emptying anything out, then He can't put anything in. Circulation. Number 3, check your connection. John chapter 15, verse 4. Abide in me and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. We've got to be connected to the vine. Let me ask you, what are you connected to? What are you connected to? Jesus said you got to be connected to Him. Like a branch is connected to the vine. And we would all say that we are. We would all say that we're connected to God. But I want to challenge you on that. See, the question this morning is, have you become connected or attached to something other than God? It's a question of priorities. It's the vine that feeds the branch and supports the branch. And what is it in your life that feeds your life? What is giving you your joy? What is giving you your happiness? What is giving you your purpose? What is most important in your life, as demonstrated not by your words, but by your time and your money and your participation, your focus? You know, we say that God is number one in our life. But I want you to ask yourself, does my giving reflect that? Is God number one in terms of my giving to God? You say God's number one in your life, but does my church attendance reflect that? That God is number one in my life, but does your worship reflect that? You know, when you get in the presence of God, do you give Him everything you had? Not dependent upon how you feel this week, or not dependent upon how good the music is, or what's going on in your mind, or do you give God what He deserves? Do you make Him a priority when you get in the presence of God? What are you connected to? What is important to do as evidenced by your actions? Our connections, our commitments, they define us. You know, I might not know you at all, but if I can see your commitments, if I can see every document you signed your name to, if I can meet the people that you have made promises to, if I can understand the things that you are committed to, that you have vowed to, that you are connected to, then I will know your life. See, we are defined by our commitments. We are fenced in by our commitments. We are controlled by our commitments and our connections. And when I remember my commitments, I remember who I am. When I remember what I have connected to and committed to, I remember that I'm a husband. I remember that I'm a father. I remember that I'm a pastor. I remember that I'm a Christian. I remember that I've made these commitments and they define me and who I am. And it may be that you need to make some new commitments. And when we own our commitments, and we keep our commitments in front of us, if we lose that, we lose who we are. When I lose view of what I am connected to and committed to, I lose touch with who I really am. And the good news is that we can make some new commitments. And you know, every significant chapter of your life starts with a major commitment. I want you to think about that. You get out of high school, you go to college, that's a commitment, especially your folks if they're paying for it, right? You know, you get out of college, you take a job, that's a commitment. You get married, that's a commitment. You have a kid, and oh man, is that ever a commitment, right? For the rest of your life. Every time you have a garage sale, your kids are calling up, hey, I want that. Well, we've been moving. We've been getting rid of stuff. And so we've been giving away and throwing away and getting rid of stuff, you know, and you know, I'm like, oh man, no. I just want to get it out of the house. When I decide it's done, I want it gone. Commitments, man. You make major commitments in life and they define you. I want to challenge you. What are you connected to? See, when we're connected, it's easy for us to get connected to something other than God. It's easy for us to let something get in our life that really takes the place of God in our life. You know, here's a good way to know if you have an idol in your life. Honestly ask yourself, what occupies my mind? What do I spend my time fixated on? What am I daydreaming about, you know? Do you daydream about what you do if you all of a sudden inherited a bunch of money? You know, I've sat around and done that. I mean, I know what truck I would buy and what car I would buy. And, you know, I've got it all worked out, who I'd give money to and spend. We get daydream. What do you daydream about? You know, what do you fixate on? Kim and I, we sold our house. Kim decided to sell our house. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. You know, it'll take a long time to sell it. I figured we'd still go through the holidays there. 3 days later, it's like, oh, no, we sold our house. And then it's like, we got to get out, you know. And I'd wake up in the night just anxious. And it's been consuming us about what are we going to do? Where are we going to live? And you know what I'm worried about? Where am I going to put all my guy stuff? I got guy stuff. I got all kinds of stuff. And man, I told you I graduated from college in 1980. Do you know that just yesterday, this is the truth, yesterday I threw away my college textbooks. I threw them in the back of my truck and took them to the dumpster yesterday. I had them books that's like almost 40 years that I hung on to those things, you know. I had them right there on the shelf. And, you know, I got my shirts from the 90s. I got a whole closet of these shirts, and they're all been to the cleaners in the little bags and them big bright stripes. You know, I love those shirts, man. Those are vintage. You know, my kids are like, Dad, those are out of style. I'm like, man, if they're in style in the 90s, they're in style right now, man. I love those shirts. I tried to give them away. I tried to sell them. Nobody wants those shirts, but there they are, man. And I'm like, what am I going to do with my shirts? What am I going to do with my Hard Rock Cafe shirt collection? and I'm just obsessing about it and worrying about it, and it's consuming us. No doubt it's become an idol in our life. Thank God we finally got a place to go. Everybody's like, I'm glad you could throw them shirts away, but I'll wear some next Sunday. But it's easy for our hearts to get connected. And if you have an idol in your life, what do you spend your money on? What do you spend your time doing? What do you tend to be jealous of? What brings you joy? And our hearts can wander and be connected to something that doesn't fill our life. And this is the surest way you can tell if you have connected to something other than God. If there is an idol in your life, you've made a connection to something other than God, and this is it right here, exhaustion. Are you just exhausted? Are you literally just wore out all the time? That is the best indicator that something has stepped in front of God in your life. See, Matthew chapter 11 verse 30 says, "For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Now that verse tells us one thing we often miss. There is a yoke that we are to wear, and there is a burden that we are to carry. You know, when we get saved, God has a job for us. He didn't just save you. I said this morning. He didn't just save you so that you could go to heaven. If the only purpose for your salvation was to make sure that you went to heaven, He would kill you the minute that you got saved. And I imagine church attendance would be a lot lower, right? And the altar calls would go really fast, you know. But think about it. No, that's not the deal. The deal is that God saved you so that you could do something, so that you could have a purpose. And so there is a yoke, there is a job that we're to wear, there is a burden we're to carry. But listen, your ministry should not deplete you. If your ministry is draining you, then there's one of two things going on. Either you're wearing the wrong yoke, or you're wearing the right yoke, but you're wearing it wrong. See, He said, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. And when we are exhausted, then we've allowed something, and it may be a good thing, but we've allowed something to become the priority in our life other than God. You know, taking care of your business and everybody else's business is exhausting, right? Fixing your problems and fixing everybody else's problems is exhausting, right? How many times do we allow a relationship or a situation, or maybe it's a kid, or maybe it's a parent or a friend, and we're just trying to help them. We're trying to help them, and it exhausts us because God wants Him to be number one in our life. Not that relationship, not that job, not that stuff, not that game, not that whatever it is in your life. Anything that steps in front of God as priority in your life, and you've become connected to that instead of connected to God, will deplete you and wear you out. If you're constantly worrying about and obsessing about money or a person or a job or your future or situation or where to hang your 1995 shirts or whatever it might be, you know, where am I going to put all my deer heads? I have to put them in the garage now and the mice are going to eat them. I mean, you're just worrying about this stuff. You got an idol in your life. But you know the biggest idol that gets into people's lives, I think this is number one, because it's kind of insidious, it's kind of tricky, it's kind of under the radar and we don't really think about it. But the number one idol, the number one thing that takes the place of our priority of God in our life is this: hurry. Hurry. When you ask somebody how they're doing, what is the number one answer you get? I'm busy. Always. Have you ever asked somebody how they're doing? They're like, man, I'm just chilling out. I'm kicking back. I got time on my hands. I ain't got nothing to do. I'm just doing whatever I want to do, laying around, reading a book, watching TV, and playing video. Well, you might get that answer. I'm watching TV and playing video games. But really, what we get from people is usually, I'm busy. We wear it like it's a badge of honor. You will never do your best work for God when you're in a hurry. When you're rushed, you're not going to be your best, right? In fact, you may be your worst. And I've said it this way, that hurry is the great enemy of a spiritual life. Hurry is a great enemy of a spiritual life. And you know, the danger is not that we will abandon our faith. That's not what we're in danger of. The danger is that we will be so distracted, so rushed, so hurried that we will accept a mediocre version of our walk with God. We're not going to walk away from God and quit church and you know, go out in the world and live whatever. I don't know how you describe that, but no, we can sit right where we're at Sunday after Sunday, and our mind is on something else. We're preoccupied. We're distracted. We go through life skimming everything. Skimming books, skimming relationships, skimming opportunities. And do you realize that the ministry that Jesus did, if you look, it almost always says, as he went along, he saw a man. Most of the ministry that Jesus did was an interruption to where he was going. Show me in the Bible where Jesus was ever in a hurry. He was busy, but he was never rushed. He had time to look at the birds. He had time to talk about stalks of wheat. He had time to see the disciples fighting about who was going to be the greatest in the kingdom. He had time to let little children come up and sit on his lap. He was never in a hurry. And when you are in a hurry, you have allowed something to step ahead of you. It distracts you and it keeps us from really following Jesus. If you're following someone, you can't go faster than they're going, and we get so distracted, so rushing, so hurried. And listen, hurry is not a disordered schedule. Hurry is a disordered heart. You know, about a year ago, I guess, Kim come up to me and she said, I want to buy a Jeep Wrangler. I'm like, what? Now, if you knew my wife, you knew that was so out of character. And I'm like, you're kidding me. Now, the very next thing, guys, I said is, okay, yeah, this is awesome. I've always wanted one of those. So, you know, we started looking at Jeep Wranglers, which are really overpriced, aren't they? But what she really wanted was to run around with the top down and the doors off, which she would never have run around with them doors off. I don't believe it for a minute. She'd have been afraid she'd have fell out. But what she really wanted was a convertible. And so we got a convertible. And so what we do a lot now is go out and drive around with the top down. Now, literally, I'm not going anywhere. I got to go to Sonic. I got to get there during happy hour, but I mean, I got 2 hours to go 3.2 miles from my house to Sonic. I am literally have no agenda, but you know what happens? I get behind somebody on Washington Street, right? And they're going 25. You know, I said this morning and got in trouble. The chief was back there. He's not here now. So listen, you don't really have to go 25. There's no officers here, is there? Oh, no! Where'd you come from, man? I thought I was... He's even got his uniform on. My name is Dave Franson. I drive a black Mustang, it ain't me. but you know, you can get 30 and I'll get behind somebody going 25 and I'm just fuming back there, you know. And so we've been going to Life Point about a year now, and that's messed me up because I can't tailgate them. I don't know half the people go to this church. I'm afraid they go to church with me, so I can't give them that special wave, you know, or tailgate or honk the horn because they may see me at church. So I'm stewing along, or I'm in a hurry. I don't even know why I'm in a hurry. But I'm in a hurry. And then what kind of a person would go 22 miles an hour? Oh, my head is just about to explode. I'm like, and it's always old people, you know. Shouldn't that dude be in a hurry? He's going to die in about a week. You'd think he'd want to get there. And you pull up beside him and it's some old dude and he's like, man, you need to move it along. I'm back there just going nuts in a hurry. And there isn't any reason in the world to be in a hurry. And we do that, don't we? We get an attitude in our spirit, in our heart. I just got to say, officer, why is that speed limit 25 on the viaduct? Come on, man. What, cross traffic? A bird? What, are you going to hit a goose? I mean, put that 35 instead. I know exactly where that sign's at, don't you? Right there by O'Reilly's. Put that dude on this side of it, man. There's no, come on, you're killing me. Going 22 miles an hour across that viaduct and my head's about to explode. And it had nothing to do with my schedule. It's got to do with what's going on inside of me. I'm in a hurry. That's the biggest idol that gets in our life is we get rushed, we get in a hurry, we adopt the attitude, man, I don't even know what I'm doing, but whatever I'm doing, it's got to be important, I got to get it done. And what that does is it steals away the opportunities in our life. Stand with me if you would. It steals away the opportunities in our life for the things that really matter the most. See, we get so focused on stuff like that, and we miss the relationships. Do you realize the only thing that you have anything to do with that is going to last 100 years from now are the people that are in your life? People live forever. And those little children and the spouse and those parents and those friends, those are the things that count. And when we are in a rush, when we are in a hurry, when we are always just caught up in the things that distract us from those precious opportunities and moments, we miss life. We miss out on what God wants to do for us. Check your cheer. Say, man, I'm struggling. Why am I struggling so much? Well, ask yourself, man, what am I putting out there? What is my face telling the people around me about my walk with God? What am I putting into circulation? What is filling my heart? What am I connected to? What am I fixated on? What am I worrying about? What's feeding you? Is it worship? Is it love? Is it purpose? That's what affects our hearts. Guard our hearts. Let's pray together. Father,